You're listening to Season 2 of the Mies podcast. I'm your host, Josh Sharkey, the founder and CEO of Mies, a culinary operating system for food professionals. On the show, we're going to talk to high performers in the food business, everything from chefs to CEOs, technologists, writers, investors, and more, about how they innovate and operate and how they consistently execute at a high level, day after day. And I would really love it if you could drop us a 5-star review anywhere that you listen to your podcast. That could be Apple, that could be Spotify, it could be Google. I'm not picky. Anywhere works, but I really appreciate the support. And as always, I hope you enjoy the show.
With every stroke of the pencil, I'm giving you folks a glimpse into my experience.
My guest today is Chef Masako Morishita. Chef Masako has, well, just an incredible background, and the path that she's taken to get to where she is today is a lot of what we talk about today. She's an immigrant from Kobe, Japan, and actually her family has a restaurant there that's been open for almost 100 years called Morshita Liquor Store. Anyway, she came to the States speaking no English, was living in Wisconsin, of all places, and then ended up in D.C. Prior to cooking, she was actually the captain of the Washington Redskins cheerleading squad. Now that she has been cooking, it's been about 5 years, and it's been quite the meteoric rise. This year, she was nominated for a James Beard. She's a semifinalist for a James Beard Award. Last year, she won Eater DC Chef of the Year. She's a chef of a restaurant called Perry's in DC. And a lot of what we talk about today and a lot of what her passion revolves around is, one, educating Americans on what Japanese cuisine is outside of, obviously, sushi and tempura, things like that. Really specifically like casual Japanese cuisine and what it means to her and why we should be eating more of it. Talk a lot about women in hospitality, specifically immigrant women in hospitality. I ask her, what is one thing that she would love to see change? There's obviously a lot that we need to do to help. She's pretty passionate about it. She talks about some other women that are inspiring to her. And generally just a really, awesome conversation. I hadn't seen her in about 2 years. I met Masako at an Indie Chefs event in DC a couple years ago. And I vividly remember putting Daikon radish into sous vide bags and helping her the combi oven. And she made this really incredible dish of sous vide daikon. I think it was cooked in rice water, and there was a gratin of brie cheese on top. Anyways, we reminisced a bit about that on the call. And overall, just had a lot of fun. So as always, I hope that you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. So nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
It's been quite a while. I think the last time I saw you...
Few years, right?
Yeah, I think the last time I saw you was opening up a combi oven because I think you were cooking some daikon, maybe, in Dashi.
Yes, for the event.
That's right, yeah, for the Indie Chefs event. Mm-hmm. Was it daikon? I think it was daikon, wasn't it?
I think I did the daikon dish.
Yeah, it was really good. What was that? I don't remember.
So that was a braised daikon. So I was doing like double braising. The first is like a pre-braised, like braising. It's like I cooked the daikon with a little bit of like rice and a lot of water to get rid of all the bitterness and everything, make it soft. And then second one was actually sous vide, like slow cooking, braising with chicken kombu dashi and tamari all together and get all the flavors in.
It was really good. I think there was cheese on top, wasn't there?
Yeah, so I have a slice of brie cheese on the top, serve it with a dashi.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, now I remember the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's right. It was sous vide in the dashi, and then you brulee the brie on top. Yeah, that was really good. That was really good.
Thank you.
Anyways, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're live, by the way, so we're just going to do it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is it. We're casual here. Are you in between services right now, or like?
Today's actually my day off, but I call it working from home day.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I don't have to work for service. Yeah.
So I should have fact checked this and just texted Brad or something, but it's your birthday recently, right?
Yes, it was on Sunday actually.
That's right. Happy birthday.
I was working. Yeah, thank you. I was working for the service, so it's just like a regular day.
Did you do any celebration afterwards, or?
Not really. I came home probably around 11 o'clock, so it wasn't that early. We couldn't really go anywhere. So I'm actually hoping, Brad, my husband, he's thinking about taking me to New York in March
Ooh, nice.
for a little bit of celebration. So
Very
yeah, we'll
cool.
see.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we see you guys when you're up here.
Yes.
So I have a bit of a through line for today, Masako,
Hmm.
because I always was fascinated with your background
Yeah.
and some things that I think we're gonna kind of weave into this conversation that I think will just be
Hmm.
helpful for everybody, and that I just love about you is I feel like you're constantly like tackling these challenges where you're the underdog, where
Yeah.
you have less experience and you have less advantage, and somehow you
Hmm.
still like excel, right? You've tried out for the
Yeah, I
cheerleading
survived.
team. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you somehow like obviously you came to this country as an immigrant and tried out for the Washington Redskins, now the
Hmm.
Commanders. I think were the
Yes.
Redskins when you were there, right?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
it was. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, and you were never a cheerleader before, right?
I was a cheerleader in Japan, but like we don't have any like football like we
Uh
have
huh.
here. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I was dancing there, but like not this like the highest level
Gotcha. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
NFL.
Well, that
Yes.
must have been, yeah. I mean, it was, that must have been scary. And then obviously, fast forward, you became the captain of the team.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then, similarly, you were cooking food for all the team. Obviously, they loved it.
Hmm.
It was delicious. They're like, what is this?
Yep.
And, you jumped into the culinary industry, which is also
Yeah.
really tough for a female. So you're this female immigrant with very little experience. And somehow, like, fast forward years and Eater Chef of the Year. Now you're nominated for James Beard. I'm just curious, like, what's driving you to take these sort of big? They're not risks. I mean, they can be risks, but also just like these
Hmm.
big challenges where you're like, what are you telling yourself when you're deciding to say, take on these giant, what seem
Yeah.
to be like really scary things?
Yeah. So I think myself as a rebel, as a Japanese woman, because, like my family too, like they didn't really like me taking risks. They
Hmm.
really wanted me to have this like, set life plan, which I really didn't follow at all. When I was, especially like when I decided to actually cook full time, it took me actually a while to pursue this because the way I was raised, and I was working for a Japanese TV station, Washington
Hmm.
Bureau, which was like stable income, stable employment. So in order to ditch all that and just jump into like something I never done before full time, yeah, of course it was a challenge, but I think COVID was huge for me because that COVID kind of made me realize you really never know what's going to happen in the future. So if you don't do anything you love and you wanted to do, when are you going to do it? Maybe like 2 years later, the world's going to end. So I just had to, yeah, that was actually, huge on my decision making to jump
Yeah.
into
Isn't
this.
it so
Yeah.
funny how, like, as humans, we need these drastic things to
Yes.
happen for us to
Hmm.
appreciate the little things?
Yeah,
Someone in the
totally.
family passes, or you come close to,
Mm.
facing death. And then, of course, then you appreciate life so much more.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
Unless you have, I have an unnecessary, like, an unhealthy fear of never doing enough. So I'm always feeling like I need to do more. But for the most
Mhm.
part, we always, yeah, it's weird how we need these cataclysmic things to happen in
Yeah.
order for us to really, take leaps. But you did.
Yeah, I did.
So we'll dig a little more, but maybe just for folks that don't know a little bit
Hmm.
about your background in Kobe and coming here, just a little bit about your
Hmm.
personal background, because it's actually not too far fetched that you're in the restaurant business given your background.
Right. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Kobe, Japan, which is like about probably like 30, 45 minutes a train ride from Osaka. It's a really beautiful city. I was raised, grew up there. And my family actually have a little bar and restaurant in Kobe for close to 100 years. Actually, we just celebrated our 90th anniversary last year.
Wow.
So it's almost there. So my grandparents actually started it, and my parents still running the bar and restaurant and little shop as well as of today. So, and then our living space is actually above the bar and restaurant. So I come home to my parents' bar restaurant. Of course, I have to help them out. I was their free labor. Always like industry is like in my blood, but like my family really discouraged me to go into this career because they know how hard it is. They just really didn't want me to go to this route. Yeah. And then actually first time I came to the States was when I was 16 years old. I was a foreign exchange student. I spent my junior in high school in Wisconsin. So yeah, it was quite an experience. It was great. No Japanese people, even no Asian people there. So I had to use English to survive.
Yeah. Were you fluent at the time or did you?
No, like almost zero.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
was carrying like small dictionary with me all the time just to have like one sentence conversation with my classmates. It took me a while because it was really hard. But that really, had me practice using English. That's one of the reasons I could like, communicate with you, like other people better than like probably like, other Japanese people, I guess. Yeah. So that was my first time coming to the States. I spent 1 year there and I actually decided to do something I cannot do in Japan, which was a cheerleading. So I didn't have any like athletic background or anything. But I'm like, okay, let's try and see how it goes, And I made the team as a mascot first. It was
As a
tiger.
mascot?
Yes.
Wait, for the Redskins?
That was my high school.
Oh, in high school.
In Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
Yes.
What was the mascot?
It was a tiger.
That's awesome.
So that was actually my dancing career. And I went back home, I never thought about like doing cooking as my career. So I went to college. I went to, I got the job in the office, blah, blah, blah. But I was kept dancing. And then I always wanted to like try out for the highest level I can try out, which was NFL.
Wait, why? What was it about? And I apologize for interrupting you, but not everybody thinks that, right? They, a lot of people cheerlead and then don't decide to go try for the NFL. What was it that made you want to do that?
Yeah. So I think it was early 2000s. There was a tour from NFL. They brought a bunch of cheerleaders to Japan and do clinic for Japanese cheerleaders. That's kind of like my first interaction with the NFL cheerleaders. And I was like, oh my God, there's like this gorgeous, like beautiful people, so nice and kind. And then they can dance. And I was just blown away. So, I was doing the same thing, like cheerleading, right? Cheer dance. So I'm like looking at them. I'm like, hopefully somewhere in the future, I can be like that. So I kind of start thinking about NFL, like at that moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there any particular reason that you went to the Redskins? Commanders, sorry, I keep saying the Redskins.
Yeah. So that director of the team, she had a connection in Japan as well. She used to come to Japan every summer to do like dance classes. I really liked her like style of dances, her personality. So that kind of like made me feel like if I want to try out, I really want to try out for her team and wanted to be her, on her team. So that's why I actually decided to try out for Commanders. Yeah.
So you became the captain of the Commanders.
Yes.
I'm so curious because I don't know anything about how that works, how the cheerleading, especially for NFL. But I'm curious if you've seen any parallels with what you're doing now with cooking to what you did in cheerleading, and then also like what did you gain from that? Like I'm sure there's some leadership skills and things that you now use today. I'd love to hear like any lessons.
Yeah, leading a team. It's almost the same, like leading the team. Leading a team of cheerleaders, leading the team of the kitchen. It's completely different like genre. But the leading the team, that's the same thing. I learned like everything about leadership during my tenure as a captain of the team. As a cheerleaders, like we had probably 35-ish like ladies on the team. That's really hard to get everybody.
What's the hardest part about it?
I mean, a lot of people could be, some people could be dramatic. I mean, there's different like personalities. They're coming from different background. To gather everybody together, to achieve like a good level of performance, that's very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's in kitchen too. It's exactly the same. We have completely different background people. Everybody's coming from like different country. On my team, I only have I probably 98% of my staff are immigrants, actually,
Oh, wow.
including myself. So yeah,
In your current restaurant?
yes. Yeah, everybody has a big different background. Even we speak different language,
Mm-hmm.
coming from different culture, just gather everybody to achieve a goal for us to serve good Japanese comfort food. That's the same.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
You grew up in restaurants with your parents. I'm sure you also totally understand why they told you not to do this, because I have to imagine not a lot of vacations, not a lot of days
right.
off.
Mhm.
They didn't have a ton of time. As a child growing up in that, I'm sure that impacts you today with your restaurant. Like,
Yes.
do you see anything that pops up in your, like, the way that you operate or think because of the impact of your, of your family from growing up in the restaurant?
I had to help my parents a lot without getting paid, of course, because I'm I'm the
They're
kid.
paying you in love.
That's a good way to say it. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember, like you said, I don't remember going on vacation with my family at all. I don't even like going out with my family, except like, the like restaurant industry friends, like
Mm-hmm.
restaurants and stuff. Yeah. Those things I still remember. So to be honest, for me, like I'm really bad at planning vacations because I didn't do that growing up. So even like if I have like extra day off, I don't know what to do because I'm not used to it because I was like working and helping out like all the time. And so is my family.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's that gets so ingrained in you. I know the feeling. I mean, I have to imagine that there was some delicious food growing up. Like, do you have any like most
Yep.
memorable things that you ate often growing up, in the restaurant?
Yeah. It's really hard to choose like actual dish, but my mom and my grandma, there's a shrimp dish. That's like probably like one of my favorite things, still up to date. It's like head-on prawns,
Mm-hmm.
braised in like sweet soy, like a dashi,
Mm-hmm.
like reduce it, like, and then like chill it for like overnight or like a day or so. So all the flavor actually goes inside of
Oh,
the
yeah.
shrimp.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I actually like remade it not too long ago myself, but I feel like I can never be that, I can never
You never
make
quite get it.
that. Yeah, exactly. The same dish that my mom and my grandma made.
Yeah. Do you serve it warm or cold? Or do you like reheat it? Or?
Cold.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. It's like a cold
That
shrimp
sounds really
dish.
good.
I know,
Yeah.
it's really good. So that's probably one of my favorite dish growing up.
Yeah.
Like onigiri rice ball
Oh, I
with
love
little
onigiris.
miso mixed in, those things. And of course, like my mom cooks at our restaurant bar and my grandma too. My grandma is a great cook as well. Both my grandma, my dad's side's grandma, my mom's side's grandma. So when I go to my mom's side's grandma, she knows, like she knew that I love eating.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I go there, like her entire house, like smells like dashi, like soy sauce, mirin. So every time I use those ingredients at home or at work, it's just like bringing me back to like her house, like instantly.
Yeah.
That's like one of the things I still remember and
Yeah.
feels like really so close to my heart. Yeah.
I'm curious, like, where do you source like katsubushi and kombu and things like that? Like,
Yeah.
where are you buying that from?
Yeah. So there are like several really great Japanese vendors in DC.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually buy through them. But actually, so I went to New York last year and I went to this one shop called Dashi Okume in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
They actually do customized like dashi blend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when I have like special occasions, like some like, important like charity dinner that I do, I use that special blend as well.
Oh, that's cool. Last season I had these guests on from a company called Japanese Pantry out of San Francisco.
Okay.
And I've been buying from them forever. They have incredible
Yes.
products.
Oh, I heard of them. Yeah, I heard of them.
They have this liquid shiokoji that I don't know if you can get it anywhere else.
Yep.
That is, I always have bottles in my house. It's just like
yeah.
add some umami. But I didn't realize the the different iterations of katsuobushi that there's like this smoked and smoked and fermented and different. So I went crazy and bought like 12 different kinds from them after that. But I'm always curious where people buy those things. I know in New York there's obviously places, but what do you think most Americans like misunderstand about Japanese food?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the reasons I decided to cook full time as well, is that people really knows about sushi. People really knows about ramen, but not so much about the food I used to grow up eating, which was Japanese comfort food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's for me like cooking, I'm like educating people through my food in a way. I think there's still a stereotype about Japanese food that we eat like sushi every day.
Yeah.
No, we don't. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like one of my missions through cooking. I really wanted to, introduce something people just don't know about.
This show is brought to you by, you guessed it, Mies. Mies helps thousands of restaurants and food service businesses all over the world build profitable menus and scale their business successfully. If you're looking to organize your recipe IP and train your team to put out consistent product every day in less time than ever before, then Mies is just for you. And you can transform all those old Google Docs and Word docs and PDFs and spreadsheets and Google Sheets into dynamic, actionable recipes in Mies in lightning speed. Plus, stop all that manual work of processing invoices because Mies will digitize all your purchases automatically. And there's a built-in database of ingredient yields, prep yields, and unit of measure conversions for every ingredient, which means you're going to get laser-accurate food costs in a fraction of the time. Visit www.getmeez.com. That's GETMEEZ.com to learn more. And check out the show notes moving forward because we're going to be adding promotions and discount codes so that all of you lovely and brilliant Mies podcast listeners get a sweet deal on Mies. What's a dish? Doesn't matter if it doesn't need your favorite dish, but like what's something that you think most people don't know about that they should?
I think it's just like the simplicity make the flavor so good. I feel like I see a lot of like restaurant and food, a lot of components in one dish, right? But I think Japanese food is very simple. It's probably like the main ingredients to make a flavor is probably like 5 ingredients.
Yeah.
But just that different ratio of the ingredients make everything flavor like so different. So simple yet delicious and different. I think that's probably the people really don't know about Japanese cooking.
Yeah. That's what I love so much about it is that it's so simple, but deceptively simple because you have to have, each ingredient is so important. I mean, it's funny. I cook, a decent amount of it at home just because it's so comforting. My wife loves, like I'll make chawanmushi like once every week or two. And just because like, I have really good kombu, really good, really good katsuobushi and I'll make a dashi and then the next day just really good eggs. It's literally dashi and eggs. And we usually just do some braised, greens on top and it's so good. And it's like, there's like nothing to it. And I think that most people probably don't unless you've gone to some sort of like really good izakaya place where you get, people don't know about those things.
I feel like, the food here, the kind of food get like a lot of praise in America has a lot of components into it. I totally understand, there's like a color and like crunch, like salty, sweet. That's awesome. But I really, like I said, like I wanted to educate people through my cooking. So I just want to show like the simple ingredients can make the food really tasty as well. Yeah.
There are a couple things that you always have to have around, maybe not in the restaurant, but at home that everybody needs to make sure they have.
Soy sauce, of course.
What kind of soy sauce do you typically like? What's your go-to?
So I only use one kind of soy sauce. It's called tamari soy sauce. It's gluten-free. And I get the one called Sanjay Tamari.
Yeah.
The factory is actually in Richmond, but their headquarters in Japan is like, they've been there for centuries. I actually did the soy sauce tasting in the past. And I was just amazed by like how rich the flavor is and how clean the flavor is as well. So right now in my home, at my work, like that's the only soy sauce I use.
Do you use mirin a lot? Okay.
Yes, I do. Mirin, sake, soy sauce, miso. Those are actually the four biggest ingredients. I use like all those like four ingredients to a lot of like different dishes,
Yeah.
but different ratio that I can make a different
Yeah.
flavors.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. Cool. Well, sort of circling back to something we were talking about earlier, you're sort of stepping into these new ventures as an
hmm
underdog.
hmm
You very quickly, you made a name for yourself in the culinary world. And obviously you pretty quickly became, captain of an NFL cheerleading squad.
Yeah.
So there's this notion that, the lack of experience maybe has some advantages to it. But I'm curious how
Mhm.
you think about like the advantages that you see of stepping into these new things as an underdog, as being less experienced, being greener, and how you've kind of used that to your advantage, which clearly you have in some way.
Yeah, I don't know if actually it is an advantage because I had to really try and work probably like 5 times more
Mm-hmm.
than, people with a lot of experiences. So that's hard.
Yeah.
I think what I'm trying to do, I mean, in terms of cooking, I think what I'm trying to do here in DC and here in America are a little bit different, a different kind of Japanese food, different kind of flavor. So I think that's actually probably, I'd say that's an advantage
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think a lot of people are doing the same thing I'm doing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
other than that, it's just a lot of work, a lot of learning for myself, a lot of practice.
Yeah. Do
So
you do
yeah.
you do
Mhm.
you think about? I mean, I have to imagine this probably impacts how you hire, right? Like, meaning like
Yes.
if someone doesn't have experience, you're still like,
Yep.
heck yeah, come
Yep.
on in.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of principles around like certain roles that you're hiring for that you want to make sure there's experience or not?
Yeah. The food I'm cooking is not really familiar with most of the people. So I really don't see the experience too much of the background, like, I don't really care about like, oh, this person work at this famous restaurant or anything like that. As long as that person is hardworking and wanted to learn, that's, I think, most important thing for me.
Is there a way you vet for
Yeah.
that when you're hiring?
Yeah. I mean, like when I talk to people, I can kind of sense that, because those are the things it's really hard to teach. I can't
Yeah.
teach people to work hard. That's like something they have it in themselves already. But cooking skills, making the flavors, that's teachable. So as long as like, if this person has the thing already that I cannot teach, yeah, it's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
welcome in the
No,
team. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I love that.
hmm
Well, we talked about you being a female immigrant chef. I want to
Yeah.
talk a little about like, your thoughts on the industry as it relates to all that. But generally speaking, and I
hmm
keep coming back to the same theme, it has to be very stressful, right? You come to a country where you don't speak the language.
Right.
You're trying out for a team
hmm
that's, I'm
Yeah.
sure, overwhelming, right? It's
hmm
NFL and it's a lot of pressure stepping
hmm
in a new industry of cooking and a lot of pressure there, right? And
hmm
again, not having to persevere through a lot of the, disadvantages that you might have. Like, are
hmm
there things that you use to manage stress along the way, to maintain your confidence along the way, like things that you help tell yourself to make sure, keep that confidence as you're stepping into these new kind of challenges?
Yeah. I think most important thing is love of what you do. Yeah. I think I'm pretty good with dealing stress and like tough situation because, my family were really tough people. So I was like, always like, they were always putting me pressure all the time. So I'm kind of used to that type of like, situation.
What kind of pressure?
Yeah, like, get a good grade, mostly that, like do
Mm-hmm.
well in school, like, those things. Yeah. And also, yeah, like a cheerleading too. You will always test it like all the time. Even just to be on the game, we all have to try out and show the dance from the director. And if they don't like how you bring it on the stage, you get cut. So it's always like try and error. Like, so I'm kind of like used to like those type of like a stressful situation in a way. And I think being pressured because that kind of like pushes me hard.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to push myself harder is I have to have a love of what I do. And then, like I said, like, me being lucky experience in the industry, like I said, I really had to work hard, like hard, much, much harder than other chefs. I just really love cooking. And when I was dancing, I really love dancing. So the love for what you do, that actually drives me like more. I think
Yeah.
for me, that's the most important thing. So I don't mind like, creating the new dish, like having brainstorming idea when I'm in the bed. I don't mind it at all because I love it so much. It actually excites me.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And, sometimes we take that for granted, I think. Obviously, I cooked most of my career. Now I'm doing a technology thing in the cooking world. And
Hmm.
man, I love what I do so much. And I
Yeah.
love cooking. But
Hmm.
a lot of people, they actually just never find that thing, right? Or it takes them a very long
Right.
time to find it because you're
Yeah.
so right. If you love something, all that other stuff
Hmm.
kind of, yeah, it's hard and it's
Hmm.
stressful, but it doesn't matter nearly as much because
Yeah.
you get to do the thing that you love. And we're really lucky,
Yeah.
to
I
have
feel the
that.
same way. Yeah.
Yeah. When you and I first spoke, well, not when we first spoke, but the last time we
Hmm.
spoke, I think we were on a call,
Hmm.
you were talking about just, you really want to help, the women in the hospitality industry.
Yes. Hmm.
And I'm curious, like, one, what do you see as the biggest challenges right now for women in the
Yeah.
industry? And then also, if you could change one thing about
Mhm.
what, the construct of how it exists today, what would that be?
Yeah. So I think what I see is still this restaurant industry is like male, like dominated in a way. So I think even when I got a job at the current restaurant, they didn't expect the chef to be a woman like me. It was like really a glass ceiling that I had to break.
Hmm.
So a lot of like women chef probably experience the same thing that I have been experiencing. That's hard. Like I said, if you don't have a strong like mind and will and a strong like personality, it's like you easily give up. I think the environment that we are put in as a woman, that really needs to be changed. So that's why like I feel responsible like for myself. Like I really feel responsible for me to be successful. So other like fellow women chef, especially immigrant women, I wanted to like inspire because I can do it, they can do it. So that's one of the things like I always like think about and then I really wanted to change and I'm hoping I am changing a little bit of like those things. Yeah, to inspire like other chefs in the industry.
Yeah. Do you think is it getting better? Is it stagnant?
For me, my environment is getting better at my restaurant. Like I said, like the restaurant I work at, Perry's, it's been there for 40 years. So it's
Wow.
like one of the iconic restaurant in DC, but they never had a woman chef. All the staff were totally unexpected. Like someone like me is coming in to be a chef.
That must have been, I'm sure it was just the environment must have been a little challenging in the beginning.
It was very challenging, to be honest with you. But like, people really sees you. Like
Yeah.
people sees me how hard I work
Hmm.
and how I'm like creating dishes that are well received by the guests. So, more and more, like I try, more and more they accept me.
Yeah.
Of course, now it's getting better.
Yeah. It's just, it is very frustrating that notion still exists of like that you actually have to show
Yeah,
more
exactly.
than because you're a female.
So yeah, so that's the kind of like thing I wanted to create is that as a female chef, you really have to try extra hard. I really wanted to like create the environment for the female chef that we don't have to work extra hard. Of course we all work hard, but I kind of want to change that kind of like
Yeah.
situation that we
Hmm.
have to do more
Yeah.
than others.
Do you have like an outlet of where you talk about this with other female chefs?
Yeah. So I have like a small group of friends, like immigrant, like female chef. I have a great friend, Japanese pastry bakers in DC. She's actually from Kobe too. We
Oh,
talk
wow.
about this like all the time, like how we had to like really work hard. But like she's actually changing the game, like pastry game in DC too. So she inspires me too, like, and I inspire her
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I'm just try to do my job really well. So that's that kind of like, the results that like I can inspire like other people like me.
Yeah. So when we last talked, you mentioned that like I asked you just if there are women that do inspire. You mentioned your
Hmm.
mom
Hmm.
and also Bobby Prada Chief's mom. And I'm curious, what is it about those two? I mean, moms are always inspiring, but
Yeah,
independent of that, like what is it about those two that really inspire you?
yeah. So Chef Sam, let me talk about Chef Sam because I love her so much.
Bobby's mom.
So yeah, Bobby's mom.
Maybe can you
So
give a little like wind up of like who they are so people
yeah.
know? Yeah.
So Bobby is a great chef. He's a friend of mine. He now lives in Seattle. He has this pop-up concept called Amone. And his mother is actually a chef in DC, Laotian chef.
Mm-hmm.
And she has several restaurants in DC. Her food is always great. She's very successful, but she's one of the hardworking chefs that I ever know in this industry as well. The things about Chef Sang is she always care about people around her. Like she always cared about me. She always like, send me texts or message like every once in a while. Hey, how you doing? Even like her working so hard, but at the same time, she can care about like other chefs. That's like inspiring.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
really wanted to be like her.
It's amazing how contagious, those
Yes.
positive actions are,
Yes, and she makes me happy. Like every time I get the message or she come in and eat my food, that makes my day. Like that makes me really happy. So I want to be like her.
I love that. Cool. Well, moving on a little bit because we're wrapping up here.
Yes.
I know you're busy. I always think about, again, now I just say this too often, but I always think about 5 years ago, if I'm not embarrassed about what I was doing then I'm not growing fast enough. But I'm curious, like you're now in this new industry, right? It's been at least 5 years, I think, right? Since you started professionally cooking.
Actually, two and a half years ago.
Oh my gosh, 2.5. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do a different time horizon. How are you different from when you started? Like, what's different today about you than when you started?
I think the core about me never changes, right? Like I've been working hard my entire, of course, 2.5 years. But the cooking wise, I'm evolving like every day, like even a month before and now I evolve. Yeah, like it's just, the cooking, I always have like crazy ideas that I wanted to make it happen. And I feel like that's like the task I give it myself. So every time I kind of like conquer those tasks, I feel like I'm evolving.
Yeah. Is there something you're doing today that you're like, wow, 2.5 years ago, there's no fucking way I could be, I've done this.
Yeah. So 2.5 years ago, I only knew that I already knew like the cooking wise, like all the family recipe that I was doing that. Right. But like I get bored easily. I want to do something more, something fun. I want to think outside of the box because a lot of Japanese food kind of like stays the same. Like if you go to like different Japanese restaurant, their menu is kind of like similar, right? For me, that's boring. So I wanted to evolve. Like I want to do something, like I said, outside the box. I want to use some ingredients that we don't use for Japanese cooking. And that's like really exciting. And then at Perry's, the restaurant I work for, I always try to put like 2 or 3 different specials every single week. So I'm constantly creating something new and fun and delicious. So that makes me evolve. Like
I
that's
love
like
that.
huge difference. Like when I started 2.5 years ago and now I really push myself to, do something, to create something fun and tasty. But I try not to be cocky, like I don't go for just the Instagram picture. Like I really need to make sure it tastes really good. But yeah, I just wanted to do something fun, Because if I'm having fun, like creating, then people who eat my food, they feel fun. They feel happy. So that's like the core philosophy I still have from like, since I started. But the cooking wise, I'm like now finally be able to show it, my like happiness, my joy into my cooking. That's the difference.
I love that.
Now I'm still evolving like every single week.
Yeah. You think your parents will come see you? I know they came to see you when you were cheerleading, but do you think they'll come see you cook?
I really hope they can come, but from Kobe to Washington, D.C., it's like 25 hours like plane ride. So my parents is getting a little older, so it might be a little bit hard. But every time I go back home, I try to cook for them. So
that's great.
They can at least like taste my food.
Yeah. And I'm sure they must be so proud. I tried to Google. I found the liquor store. I found Morshita Liquor Store, but I couldn't find the restaurant. I think I just wasn't searching. I searched Morshita Liquor Store, Morshita restaurant.
Yeah, the bar restaurant is attached to the shop, actually. It's a small, like standing bar style bar. It's really tiny. So maybe it's like hard to like Google in English.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, probably. And you said your uncle has a spot too, right?
Yeah, they have a little neighborhood spot as well. So
outpost someday in Japan for Masako?
Yes.
Are you going to open a spot in Japan sometime?
We'll see. if I have a chance, but we'll see. I still have like a lot to do here. I still have like things I need to achieve in the States. So maybe after, I felt like I achieved something here, then maybe.
Yeah. Well, you've achieved a lot already, but what is in the horizon for you? Like 5 years from now, what's like the next big thing?
Yeah. For the next 5 years, I really like hope I still have this like happiness and joy towards cooking. And I also wanted to introduce like, my Japanese home cooking to wider audience. So I'm hoping I can write the recipe book that people can easily cook at home, the Japanese comfort food in American household. Yeah. So that's actually one of my goals as well. And of course, to break the glass ceiling for all the women chefs, especially the immigrant women chefs.
I love that. Well, I can't wait for that. We're wrapping up. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would be helpful or would be fun to share, or anything you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think in this like next few months, I can't really say much details, but I have a fun like collaboration dinners and event coming up, actually in New York too, and like everywhere in DC as well. So yeah, please just like, I post a lot of the information on my Instagram. So please keep an eye out. And yeah, if there's anybody who wanted to start this career, but don't have a courage, just please send me email or DM so we can talk and like, I can like totally help you out.
All right. We'll put your Instagram handle in the show notes. I will spare you by not putting your email just in case. But, but they can reach out and find you and the restaurant. And this was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning into the Mies podcast. The music from the show is a remix of the song Art Mirror by an old friend, hip-hop artist, Fresh Daily. For show notes and more, visit getmees.com/podcast. That's GETMEEZ.com/podcast. If you enjoyed the show, I'd love it if you can share it with fellow entrepreneurs and culinary pros, and give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to your podcasts. Keep innovating, don't settle, make today a little bit better than yesterday, and remember, it's impossible for us to learn what we think we already know. See you next time.